The thing that we're demonizing is when ICE agents aren't following protocols. They aren't acting like law enforcement should act. They're instead literally racially profiling. We've seen it. All you have to do is go online and look at some of the videos. Just to be clear, because I think many people that are listening maybe haven't seen that before. If you're an ICE agent and you do these things, we think you ought to be held accountable.
Held accountable could mean arrested. This is a live picture here, I believe, in Broadview, Illinois. The idea is that federal agents could be arrested by state officials. And if that happens, the highest levels of the Justice Department are threatening Democratic officials with charges for obstruction.
You cannot
I would love to see that.
disclose the identity of a federal agent, where they live, anything that could harm them. Pritzker, same ball game with him. And you know, Pelosi got a letter today from Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. So did Brooke Jenkins, that DA in San Francisco. We told them, preserve your emails, preserve everything you have on this topic, because if you are telling people to arrest our ICE officers, our federal agents, you cannot do that.
The biggest concern among folks.
So, like, I don't know where they think that they can come out here and say on very large networks where a lot of Fox right now is like booming with ratings. Like, they're like number one right now with ratings, which I know libs are like losing their minds about that. People that are sympathetic to Democrats also, you know, but the reality is, you know, numbers don't lie. So the ratings are there. They're literally number one when it comes to mainstream media. So most people are going to Fox to watch whatever they want to watch as far as news. And if they're seeing the governor of Illinois, this fat, unwell man, saying, oh, they need to be held accountable because they're not acting like law enforcers. Why? First of all, what are you doing to help them? That way they don't act like whatever you're claiming they're acting like now. The only reason why it doesn't look good optics wise is because you're making it difficult for them to operate in your state. If you were to allow them to do their job, then we wouldn't have this problem. The reason why we're having this problem is because he's literally allowing mayors like Brennan Johnson to just be like, yeah, we're going to do an executive order. We're going to have ICE free zones and you're not allowed to go to these areas. You can't do that. You can't make it seem like you can tell ICE what to do. You can't. ICE is part of the federal government. Federal government trumps state government. That's basics. That's basic government. Like, I understand that the education system isn't that good, but damn, it's common sense. Like, it's in the name of our republic. We're a federal constitutional republic. It's in the name. Why is it federal? Why is federal first? Because at the end of the day, federal laws trump state laws. And that made it very apparent during the Civil War. So I think we need to go back to like what happened in the Civil War, because it's like history is repeating itself. People are choosing to forget why we had a civil war in the first place. And it's not like we have forgotten. The history is there. These leaders are pretending like we never had a civil war. They're pretending as if there is no federal law. That, you know, like they can do whatever they want in their states, even if that means telling ICE, no, you can't operate here. You don't have the right to tell ICE that. ICE operates wherever they need to operate because that is their job. Is to remove people that are not supposed to be here from this country. That is their job. They're the only people that are to tell ICE what to do is the executive branch. Just like judges who have to deal with immigration, they have to listen to the executive branch. And if judges, which I think there's like 3 judges recently that were removed from their bench because of the fact that in their numbers, they were giving people political asylum. And that's all they would do is give people political asylum. So the executive branch removed them, which tells you that if you're an immigration judge, your boss is Donald Trump. Period. If you work for the federal government, your boss is Donald Trump. So if you're a mayor, if you're a governor of a state and you're trying to tell ICE what to do, you're in big trouble with the federal government. And at the end of the day, I'm not a big government person. I personally don't like big government. But when it comes to removing people that are not supposed to be here, I understand that. I spoke to you guys about this not too long ago. Why I agree with ICE crackdowns. If you haven't seen that video, I recommend you go and watch it, because I make it clear as day why I completely understand as a legal migrant why we need to crack down, why ICE needs to do what they're doing. I understand that as a legal migrant. Another thing to add on that a lot of my liberal friends want to add. Oh, but why is it happening? Like Governor Pritzker also said the same thing. Oh, the way they're acting is not how they're supposed to be acting. Well, who are you to say that? Are you a law enforcer? Have you gone with them and like seen the operations firsthand? No, you're literally saying, oh, have you seen the video? So you've never seen nothing firsthand. You're literally just saying what you see. What you see could be swayed. Anybody can show you something that's not really there. I mean, look how many people believed. How many people believed, including MSNBC, that they were zip tying children? That never happened. That was a bold-faced lie. There was never any evidence. That story was going on for a week, running, and it never actually happened. So people will literally make shit up, and you will believe it because you want to. Because you want to believe that is actually happening because it fits your narrative. But we're not living in your narrative. We're living in reality. And in reality, they're not zip tying children. If you're an illegal and they catch you, yes, you're going to be deported out of here. And the reason why it looks the way it looks is because during Obama's administration, they didn't have to deal with no catch and release. Obama literally was telling Border Patrol agents, the minute they come through the border, you tell them to go back. That's why the optics were not the same. At the same time, he was the first black president, so the media was fawning over this man. And he was a two-term president back-to-back, unlike Trump. Trump literally got into office first term, and said, we're closing the border and you're staying in Mexico. That was brilliant, because anybody who came to Mexico to cross the border had to stay in Mexico, wait for their trial, wait for all their paperwork and everything to then come. That's the right way to do it. But then what happened? He didn't win his second election. Who won? Otto Penn. So when Otto Penn went into power, what happened? He allowed 15 million people, or 20 million, we don't really know. So let's say 10 to 15 million people cross through the border, no vetting, nothing. Human smuggling, human trafficking, drug smuggling, everything, the whole 9 yards. And what were they doing? Catch and release. They would literally catch him and then put him in a bus, send them to Arizona, California, Texas, and then Texas would then ship them somewhere else, because Texas was I'm not keeping them here. We can take him to New York. We can take him to Chicago. We can take him to Oregon, to Washington. If you're okay with illegal migrants, we can take him to you guys. They're not staying here. So when people say, "Oh, it doesn't look good," yeah, it doesn't look good because the situation is not the same. People need to go back into history, bro. Like I understand that it doesn't look good, but it's millions of people. It's millions and millions of people. Recently, I had a family member, and I'm sharing this with you guys because I want you guys to understand that this hits home for me. I've been telling you guys over and over again, this hits home for me. I'm a legal migrant. I came from Cuba. I'm raised in Miami. I wasn't born here, but I'm raised here. So to me, I'm an American, even though I was not born here. All I know is this country. I don't really know Cuba. I know history about Cuba. I know stories about Cuba. I was there when I was a teenager for a week What am I going to learn about Cuba in a week living there? Nothing. Except that I will never go back after being there for a week. I told my parents I'm never ever going back to this country. And it's sad because it's the country I was born in. And I will never go back to that country. Until it gets taken over by the States or something happens. Something radical happens and it changes. Then I'll actually think about going back. But for now, my Cuban passport, I'm really thinking about throwing it away. But I have hope that eventually Cuba will be free like every other Cuban that was born in Cuba. But I digress. I have a family member who is in limbo. All right. So this family member goes to court. Like all other illegal migrants, what does the court tell them? You have to come back on this date, on this year. So again, they're still on limbo. They got no actual status in this country. For you to have a status in this country, you need to have a visa. That is how you have a status in this country. You need to have a visa for a certain amount of time. For Cubans, it's usually 2 years. Then you get your residency. You have your residency for 5 years. And then you can go and apply for citizenship. That's Cubans. Don't ask me about any other Hispanics or anything else because I don't know. I'm telling you from as a Cuban, what we have to go through immigration process. But if you come here illegally and the court tells you got to come back in 2030, that means from now to 2030, you're still undocumented. So you have to figure out between now and then, how are you going to get some type of legal status in this country? And that's what millions of immigrants are going through right now. But guess what? In that process, while you're trying to figure that out, if they catch you, if they ask you if you, I don't know, went past a red light or did something, anything, and they ask you questions and you can't answer them in English, they're going to ask you for papers. And if you don't got them, you're in big trouble. So at the end of the day, even if it may not look good, like Fat Pritzker says, they're not here legally, bro. So if they're not here legally, whether it looks good or not, it's about whether they're actually following the laws. And if you're not here on legal standing, they have a right to remove you.